Hey, it's Lemon. Welcome to the Backlogs. Surprised to see me back in Dark Souls 3? Yeah, me too. The least played of all the Souls games that I own, outside of that which shall not be named, Dark Souls 3 is a weird game for me. It's mechanically sound, it's a Dark Souls game, what's not to like? Well, I could talk about why I prefer the other Souls games over Dark Souls 3, or we could thank Mancakes for dragging me kicking and screaming back into the game. Because today's challenge wasn't something I ever intended to do until about a month ago, when YouTuber Mancakes decided to make a video on the exact same thing. But don't worry, he knows. In fact, he outright challenged me and JK Leeds to do the same challenge, but better in his video. Now unfortunately, Mr. Leeds is busy doing something else. In fact, you could say most of your favorite Souls challenge runners are. Wink wink, nudge nudge. But while I may not be very competitive, I'm apparently very easily provoked into doing challenge runs. So that's fun to learn about myself. Anyway, now that Mancake's video has had some time to breathe, and I've had some time to remember how to play this game, today we're gonna find out. Can you beat Dark Souls 3 with only candlesticks? So, let's go over the rules. We are only allowed to use candlestick weapons in this run. And as luck would have it, there are two in the game. The Cleric's Candlestick and the Scholar's Candlestick. One is a straight sword, while the other is a dagger. To get this weapon showcase started, I've gone ahead and given myself the Cleric's Candlestick. Normally, you have to kill the Deacons of the Deep and transpose their soul to get it, but that's over a third of the way into the game. And the Scholar's Candlestick is somehow even worse, with the earliest it's available being after Greyrat reaches Irithyll. So yeah, Cleric it is. Slashy slashy, stab stab.
I think what you meant to say was flashy flashy slab slab.
No, what?
What do you mean what?
I mean what?
A big thanks to Displate for sponsoring today's video. Are you looking to spice up your office? Need a little zest for your bathroom? Or maybe you just enjoy the feeling of cold, sleek metal on your fingers. Whatever the case, Displate has got you and your walls covered. With over 2 million artworks available in their catalog, you're bound to find something that suits your needs. The number of posters they have is actually overwhelming, ranging from video games, to TV shows, to movies, to the vast emptiness of space itself. And this is just what I wanted. There's so much more to find on their website, consisting of art from thousands of creators across the globe. But why metal posters? Well, it's simple really, because it's cool. But also, because they'll never wrinkle, never rip, and can easily be displayed without requiring any tools or damage to your walls. Simply clean your wall beforehand, apply the sticker leaf, and put on the magnet. And there you go. Infinite swappability of your posters, without ever having to scuff or tape up your walls ever again. What's more, Displate now offers texture posters, which means your posters now have light ridges and ripples to showcase the texture of the artwork. Ooh, yeah. So, if any of that sounds good to you, use the discount link in the description, the discount is automatically applied at the checkout, or use my code, BACKLOGS, to unlock exclusive access to the best Displate deal before it's gone.
Please get this off me.
No.
So while I beat Gundyr over the head with something that ought not be a weapon, let's talk about it. It requires 8 strength, 12 dex, and 12 faith to use, which my sorcerer class doesn't exactly have at the moment, but it does have a special trait. It can cast spells. And despite the fact that I can't use the sword part of my sword effectively, my sorcerer can use the spell tool portion. So anyway, I started blasting. Bah, bah! And for some reason, you guys all think I'm a hero, and I'll accept that responsibility. Now then, what else can this sword do? Well, not much, honestly. The first thing I need to do is get my faith up to 12, otherwise I won't even be able to swing the damn thing. Which is really weird, considering its damage doesn't even scale with faith. Just Dark Souls things, I guess. So, after grabbing the Silver Serpent Ring to help eliminate some grinding, and using the loose soul gift I took at the start of the game to give us the last few levels we need to actually use our weapon, we make our way onto the high wall of Lothric, and begin the run proper. Now, keen-eyed viewers are probably noticing two things right about now. The first thing is that this weapon deals some magical damage alongside its physical damage. The second thing is that holy hell this thing is terrible. All of the early game enemies have minimal defense against magic attacks, and it still takes me several swings to get the job done. But that's where its spell tool property takes the wheel. Because while our quote-unquote sword isn't very sharp, soul arrows are, which means killing everything around the first area is just a matter of patience and careful distancing. And for our efforts, some Titanite shards. But Lemon, I hear you whisper quietly, that's a boss weapon. Surely you need Titanite skills to upgrade it. Nope, Dark Souls 3, basic Titanite only. Don't ask questions, why are you still asking questions? Also, can we just pause to appreciate how much damage we got from upgrading our Candlestick? I'm not very good at math, but it looks like we got 4 physical damage, 4 magical damage, and 0 spell buff increase. I crave death. Something tells me we're going to be seeing a lot of magic in this run, which is cool, since I don't think I've ever actually used magic in Dark Souls 3. Granted, this is probably the worst spell tool to use for such a build, but still. Nothing we can do about that though. Gotta work with what we've got, which means it's time to push on to the next boss, the bestest boy, Vort. Unsurprisingly, using a candle against Vort doesn't exactly do a whole lot, dishing out about 40 damage per swing, while two-handed. In comparison, a single soul arrow does 58 damage. Again, not exactly top-tier spell tool, but 18 more damage is better than nothing. But, despite forgetting how to dodge during Vort's zoomies, I was able to flail wildly underneath him for an extended period of time, and eventually bring the big iron boy down. And it only gets worse from here. I desperately pump my souls into intelligence, since that's the only stat above descaling, and happily find out that this will not only improve my spell damage, but also appears to affect my weapon's magic damage properties as well. God, you know things are bad when we're celebrating 2 damage per level up. But don't worry, I have a plan.
Cheese?
Shh, shut up, don't give away the game. I wake up Yoel and invite him back to base, collect all the tidbits around the undead settlement, backtrack a bit to free Greyrat from his prison cell so I can get the Candlestick dagger later, say hi to Carl, he help anytime, then get to work on the Fire Demon mini-boss. Thankfully, Carl was willing to tank for me, so this mini-boss wasn't much of an issue. And for our trouble, a fire gem we can't use. Yup, that's right, not even infusion can save us on this run. Neither the sword nor the dagger can be infused, which is a bummer, since I was really hoping to get some passive mana regeneration and better intelligence scaling. Ah well, at least we have the Chloranthy ring. And with our build more or less unchanged, it's time for the next boss, the Curse-Rotted Greatwood. Weirdly, this boss was easier than the others up to this point. Well, I guess it's not that weird, since the gimmick makes it so that hitting a weak point several times dishes out 4 digits worth of damage. The hardest part of the fight was aiming my spells in phase 2. We could hack and slash at its front and googly arm, but why do that when Heavy Soul Arrow can chip away at the boss instead? Oh wait, never mind. Just use regular Soul Arrow instead. It only does 7 less damage and costs 4 less mana to cast, which doesn't sound like much, but when you have limited mana, that adds up pretty quick. And with a few well-placed shots from long range and a bit of Dark Souls hitbox tomfoolery, that's all she wrote. Another boss down. Moving right along. As a reward for myself, I bought Magic Weapon to see if I could self-buff my Candlestick, but no luck there. Then decided we might as well get our 5 free levels from Yoel now, and threw myself off of Firelink Shrine's highest level for a few minutes. Fun fact, throwing yourself back into the center of Firelink Shrine is faster than waiting for the loading screen fog to the outdoors. So if you find yourself yearning to become dry jerky, you can do it a full 5 minutes faster. You're welcome. Ah, we've obtained ample strength. I mean, we no longer have our stunning good looks, but it was worth it. Probably. Up next is the Road of Sacrifices. I take a slight detour to make sure I grab the Sage's Ring, which will increase my spellcasting speed, then give the Farron's Keep Guardians an aptitude test. And we all know how that went. Huh, I guess I need to keep pumping intelligence. And I think I know just who to ask about that.
Well, this is unexpected.
Yeah, shut up and take my money.
Very well.
Stupid Candlestick, forcing me to work with Orbeck, I hope he dies! Oh hey, something I noticed. We've reached the point where I can't upgrade my weapon until I progress further into the game, but look at the spell buff. Looks like pumping intelligence is actually helping. Somehow. I begrudgingly buy Fair and Flash Sword from Orbeck, since our damage is so bad that there's actually a chance it'll be stronger than hitting them with my actual sword, buy Great Soul Arrow as a backup in case that doesn't work out, then go after the next boss, the Crystal Sage. So remember how I said all the early game enemies all have minimal magic defense? Yeah, that's no longer the case now. In fact, the Sage's defense is so high that my Flash Sword does less damage than just bonking it with the Candlestick itself. So that's upsetting. But hey, at least we were able to kill the Crystal Sage on the first try. That never happens. Oh, right. That never happens. No, what actually happened was an entire scroll's worth of failed attempts. Usually because I got smacked on the side of the head by a Crystal Spear while trying to clear the Sage's clones. A problem I solved by buying Farron Dart, the absolute worst spell in the game as far as damage goes. But what it lacks in damage, it makes up for in speed. And since the clones all have 1 HP, speed and range is all that matters. Now, if I could just get my fingers to remember how to play Dark Souls 3, we could move forward. Oh, how I hate you! Right, new plan. Let's take a detour into Farron Keep. Aside from visiting our good friend the Asylum Demon, there's something we desperately need for our build here. Large Titanite for our Candlestick, and scrolls. Bringing these scrolls to Orbeck means he'll now teach me Pestilent Mist, which is going to be a game changer. And since I've already got the souls and I'm just gonna lose them anyway, I might as well buy Soul Greatsword as well. So, Pestilent Mist, exactly what it says on the tin. Simply spray mist out in front of you, then watch as your enemy's health bar melts before your very eyes. Because the Sage doesn't move all that much, Pestilent Mist was doing approximately 1000 damage with each cast, which is a pretty solid damage to mana ratio. As for Soul Greatsword, it's not as strong, but it gets the job done. And get the job done we do. Crystal Sage destroyed. There can only be one Highlander. I decided to get some practice with Pestilent Mist, and discovered a fun little combo in the process. Turns out it's hard to stop breathing in the mist when you keep getting slapped back into it. The more you know. Also, Soul Greatsword? Very good at catching enemies who try to roll around you. Works way better than it has any right to. Moving along, I make my way to the Cathedral of the Deep, mowing down the giants to get a few pieces large Titanite as I go, then bump into Carl again.
Well, you look reasonably sane.
Carl, you forget to take your allergy meds again? You sound awful. Oh, right, it's Patches. Insatiable wench. Oh man, that's good. I haven't been this insulted since someone called me a saucy harlot back at college. I decide to make up with Patches, despite his unkind words, and Patches decides to give me a 0% discount on Carl's armor. What a guy. But with that out of the way, we've reached the Deacons of the Deep. Time to see if they're a pushover or a roadblock. You just never know. Well, turns out, the answer was pushover. Between my Soul Greatsword putting in some heavy work, and Phase 2 being no different than the first due to the Greatsword's extremely long range and wide swing, there's nothing really to say about this fight. First try, best try. You'll love to see it. But before we move on to the First Lord Soul, we've got a quick stop to make. Turns out, I forgot some equipment in the swamp. The Crown of Dusk, and the Lingering Dragon Crest Ring. The Crown of Dusk does what it's always done, boosting my magic damage while simultaneously lowering my magic defense, while the Lingering Dragon Crest Ring increases how long my spell buffs last. If I had any! So yeah, that ring might as well be garbage. But you know what isn't garbage? The Abyss Watchers fight. And surprisingly, our damage isn't very garbage either. I mean, it is, but the Abyss Watchers have like 0 poise, so we can actually get a whole stamina bar's worth of damage onto them each time we find an opening. Combine that with the chunky hits of our Great Soul Arrow, and you've got the entirety of Phase 1 done in less than a minute. Phase 2, however, is a different story. For reasons I can't quite put my finger on, I just can't remember how to dodge through the Abyss Watchers' attacks. This shouldn't be this hard. Why is this so hard? I just need a minute to breathe. Just give me a minute. 1 minute is all I ask. In the end, the answer was the same as it always is in Dark Souls 3. Just run away and blink from long range. And when that inevitably fails you and you fall prey to the rising panic, just remember the age-old saying that has saved Dark Souls players for a decade. Just press R1. Never stop pressing R1. Just R1 your way to victory. And with the First Lord Soul collected, it's time for Tonyland. God, I hate this place. Thankfully, I have spells that help deal with all the massive crowds of Tonys loitering all over the place. But still, place sucks. But it does lead to the Smoldering Lake, which has all the large Titanite one could ever want, which means our candle is now at +6. I also went out of my way to kill Horus. That way Henri will push forward in their quest line. I can't use Henri's sword, but I can get something that might prove useful later from their journey. But that's not until later. For now, we've got the old Demon King to deal with. That said, there's not much to deal with here. The old Demon King is a threat in melee range, but his ranged attacks are pretty lacking, which means all I have to do is play keep away and pepper away with my Baja Blast. Easy game for babies. Which means it's time for another easy boss, Wolnir. Why am I getting bad vibes right now? Right. Come on, you rickety old piece of shit. Let's dance. Okay, just need to get to the bracelets and then we can... What just happened? Okay, let's try that again. Bracelet number 1, bracelet number 2, and bracelet number... No. I kid you not. I have never died this many times to Wolnir before. Apparently, I just really love sucking in those poisonous fumes. Good for the lungs, good for the soul. And every time I don't die by self-inflicted asphyxiation, Wolnir is more than happy to provide. Then, after 10 minutes of chuggle struggling, it's over. I did nothing different, I made no changes in strategy, Tony just got tired of fighting me and decided to let me through. Cool. But hey, at least we made it to Irithyll, which means it's time to upgrade our build. I tell Grey Rat about the North Pole and invite him to loot the hell out of it, listen to Henri wax poetic about Horus, who I definitely didn't murder, then give Horus's death purpose by collecting what I came for. Hey, could you just... Yeah, thanks. There we are, Chameleon, the spell that turns you invisible and... Wait, no, that's Hidden Body. What the heck did I want this for? Hey, Henri, Horus died for nothing. Okay, see you later, bye. I grab the magic clutch ring after showing I have 0 clutch of my own, then equip that sucker immediately, because being a glass cannon isn't a strategy, it's a way of life. And so, with our build starting to reach peak levels of mediocre damage, it's time for the Pontiff. How bad could it be? Oh good, he dodges attacks. Great. More importantly though, I have the same problem with Pontiff that I do with the second phase of the Abyss Watchers. His attacks come out so fast that there's 0 time to react, and even if you do dodge an attack, His combos are so quick that his next attack is guaranteed to catch you if you haven't dodged out of range. The only saving grace is that this man loves his lore walks. Takes one every morning with his dog, who I may or may not have killed earlier. But with a bit more long-range plinking, we get to phase 2, where Pontiff takes a quick breather, then summons his shadow self, who is weirdly weak to soul arrows. Huh, food for thought. Might have to take advantage of that when I'm not being cut in half by magic. So, turns out that wasn't a fluke. Shadow Pontiff is in fact weirdly weak to magic, and can be knocked out with 2 greatsword swings if you get into range fast enough. Of course, you then have to get out of range, but hey, it's all coming together. Just gotta let it cook a little longer. Yep, any minute now. Any minute now. Okay, new plan. Instead of staring the strategy down, maybe it's like boiling water. It never boils when you're looking at it. You gotta look away for a minute first. Oh hey look, it's my second channel where I do casual live streams of games and sometimes give sneak peeks of upcoming challenge runs. What a cool, aha, gotcha, as if I would ever promote my own content. But yeah, we already had all the pieces. We just needed to get better at putting them all together. A little great sorting whenever Pontiff tries to duplicate, a healthy bit of panic when we accidentally failed in that task, then add a dash of plink plink plunk, and there you go. Pontiff Souffle, perfect for any office birthday party or funeral. And with Pontiff dead, Grey Rat is back in town, which means the Scholar's Candlestick is now on the menu. This thing is, what's the word? Oh right, terrible. This thing is terrible. It has the same problem that the Cleric candle had, where it requires faith for some stupid reason despite being a Scholar's Candlestick, and is literally just a dagger. No magic damage, no intelligence scaling, nothing. Look, it doesn't even have the sidestep ability. It has guiding light, just like my other candle, or by another name, useless garbage. But don't you worry, when put in the left hand, it can't even parry. All it can do is a poor excuse for a block and a quick attack that does little to no damage. And for those of you who are wondering, yes, it cannot in fact be buffed by magic weapon. You wanted a sharp candle? You got a sharp candle. It does have one redeeming quality though. As hinted by the description, if you have this in your offhand, any spells you cast will be strengthened by 10 to 12.5%. So you've got that going for you. Just don't try to use it for literally anything else. But with that added to our repertoire, we've got more Lord Souls to collect. I grabbed some more loose large Titanite to upgrade the dagger, then snap up the Easterner's Ashes so I can buy large shards for Firelink Shrine, which means we essentially have +6 weapons now. Then, after fighting something big, mean, and ugly, it's time for Aldrich/Gwendolyn. Let's do this. Boy, I sure hope the boss that uses magic the entire fight isn't resistant to magic damage. Oh good, they are! Yeah, that's fine. It's not like I was at 90% HP or anything. Just end my suffering. I don't even care. And before you yell at me, yes, I've been putting some points into health. Not enough, clearly, but some. All right, well, let's try this again. Wait, was that Henri? Oh, hell yeah, we can't leave a fellow Sunbro hanging. I actually completely forgot that you can get summoned into NPC worlds to help them fight bosses in this game. It's honestly a nice touch to remind you that you're not alone. Really helps round out the world, you know? It got a little hairy at the end there, but between Henri tanking and me giving emotional support, Aldrich goes down. I mean, I still have to fight Aldrich in my own world, and I'll have to do it alone, but it's not like this fight went down to the wire or anything. I'll be fine. God damn it, Lemon, you had one job. All you had to do was press R1 and you pressed R2. How did you? So, Aldrich. This fight is about knowing what you can and can't get away with. Because both my melee and magic attacks aren't anything special for this boss, it's all chip damage. Sometimes you're a bit too far away and it's best to fire a soul arrow. Other times you're so close to them that you could swing your sword randomly and still hit them. Just use your brain. As always, whenever Aldrich decides to blot out the sun with their Gwendolyn arrows, just run below the arch at the back of the room and you'll be safe. So long as you dodge any incoming magic attacks while you wait it out. In fact, maybe just dodge all the incoming magic attacks throughout the fight. Just a thought. Huh, it's almost like having 2 pieces of equipment that amplify all the magic damage I take is a bad idea or something. Nah, that can't be right. Clearly this boss is just poorly designed. Okay, fine, I'll take off the Crown of Dusk and the magic clutch ring, but I'm not looking forward to how much my DPS is gonna suffer. Unless Pestilent Mist is completely unaffected by buffs of any kind. If that were the case, our build could be as broken or as fine-tuned as we like, and the damage would remain the same. Okay, I can work with this. Let's talk about the Mist. This spell is both the bane and boon of my existence. It's extremely short range, can cause self-inflicted damage if you aren't careful, and is only effective if your target doesn't leave the mist. However, it also doesn't care about enemy defense, does damage based on enemies' max HP rather than any of the player's stats, and is extremely fire and forget, which lets you focus on survival while your enemy focuses on the opposite. And if used with just the right amount of Great Soul Arrow on the side, it's the recipe to success. That's another Lord Soul down. Only 2 more to go. Oh god, that's not stopping, is it? Hide. Run and hide. Thankfully, the next Lord Soul is actually just waiting for us to come and take it. No bosses in between to distract me. Ooh, hey, Titanite Lizard. And so, after dealing with a very heavy rodent problem and getting a polite reminder that gravity has no interest in the follies of men, I free Carla from her cell in case she has any spells to teach me. And I mean, she does, but these are best used with a staff that excels in dark sorcery, something my weapon absolutely does not do. If we ever need a heavy vertical attack, this'll work. It's just not that impressive compared to what it could be and what I've already got going on. Speaking of unimpressive, let's kill Yorm. 3 quick blasts to the head will knock Yorm onto the ground, which then opens him up for some heavy damage from either spells or sword. You can even perform a riposte, which does a pretty significant amount of damage as well. Yorm has a phase 2, where he gets all embered up, but aside from a few graphical changes, there's really not much more to this fight than what we've already seen. Just blast and stab until it is done. And done it does in fact become. First try Yorm with nothing more than Great Soul Arrow and a mediocre sword. Just further proof that every giant can be felled. But with Yorm dead, we've got one more Lord Soul to collect. Unfortunately, we've got a few side bosses to deal with along the way. First up is the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. She hits pretty hard and can be difficult to wrap your head around with her 3-4 attack timing, but unfortunately for her, this fight is one of my favorites. And I also used to play a lot of R&B and waltzes back in the day, so 3-4 feels more at home to me than 4-4 does. That sentence was for all the band nerds in the audience today. Keep at it, you crazy kids. Remember, the audience doesn't come for the sports, they come for the band. Oh, hey, the dancer's dead. I suddenly remember that Orbeck exists, and give him a scroll I found earlier, which lets me learn homing Soul Mass and Soul Spear. If these are anything like Dark Souls 1, this is going to be a huge boost to my damage. I mean, it is, but not exactly what I was hoping for. The damage is high, but so is the mana cost. Definitely burns the candle at both ends. Probably not worth the chuggle struggle in the middle of the boss fight. Speaking of boss fights, it's Pseudo-Dragon time. Asyros here is another boss that uses magic, and therefore is magic defense heavy. So that's fun. He also becomes an absolute lunatic in phase 2. So yeah, good vibes ahead. I tried a few different strategies here to see if we could unbreak this particular wall, but I didn't have much luck. Dark spells did less than my sword combos, and for reasons I don't fully understand, my Great Heavy Soul Arrow does almost the exact same amount as my Soul Spear for a fraction of the cost. Does anyone remember when Dark Souls didn't balance around PvP metas? I remember when Dark Souls didn't balance around PvP metas. Anywho, that brick wall is a bit too solid for my build at the moment, so let's do something else. I grab a few Titanite chunks from around Lothric Castle, then put Chameleon to good use. HQ, this is Rigid Serpent. I've donned the perfect disguise to fool the guards. They'll never see me coming.
You realize those dragons can see heat signatures, right?
Sounds like Lothric propaganda to me. I'm going in. CHQ? Nothing to— Oh god, it burns! Who could have predicted this? Clearly this is the end for Rigid— Oh hey, we're fine. The perfect plan. Anywho, time for the next boss. Ornstein 3.0. Everyone has that one boss that always gives them trouble. With a Dragon Slayer Armor's giant shield and hard-hitting Bardiche moveset, I can fully understand why this guy would be at the top of some people's hit lists. But ever since the Firebomb run, this guy has been one of the easiest fights for me. Maybe I just figured out the timing, or maybe it's the fact that you can simply run away from 90% of his attacks and be perfectly fine. But either way, that's the Dragon Slayer Armor defeated on the first try. Next, I make my way through the library, accidentally finding a hidden wall, and oh would you look at that, it's a fire whip. Do you guys think that sexy party Solaire thinks about me when he's off adventuring? What, it's not like I like him or anything, shut up! I find the Crystal Scroll, which lets Orbeck teach me Crystal Soul Spear, Crystal Magic Weapon, and homing Crystal Soul Mass. But honestly, I don't think we need them. Crystal Soul Spear costs over 40 mana to cast, and unless it does monstrous amounts of damage, it's probably in our best economic interest to just keep using Great Soul Arrow. But I know you want to see it for yourself, so here, let me show you how bad Crystal— There, see? Terrible spell, do not use. Okay, how about a run where we don't get slapped by enemies from outside the fog wall? Oh lord, that's only like 50 extra damage. The same goes for homing Crystal Soul Mass too. And after 4 casts, I'm completely out of mana. Not exactly worth it when 4 quick swings of my sword can get the same result. And yeah, Soul Arrow isn't exactly kicking ass and taking names, but at least it's reliable and doesn't leave me scrambling between my Estus Flask mid-fight. In fact, I'd argue we would have had Osiris that time if we hadn't died of secondhand embarrassment right there. Okay, let me show you how it's done. Haha, this is a stupid game. Alright, for real this time. We can finally move on. Okay, what the fuck? God's teeth, finally. That took far too much effort and far too little skill. Moving on. Into the Untended Graves, where Gundyr demands a rematch. A fight which, I must say, looks almost choreographed, it's so perfect. Now, I don't know what happened, but I was dialed in for a minute there. The fighting is almost beautiful, in a way. A shame it had to end on the first try. into the dark version of Firelink Shrine, where I find some grapes. Then, after a little clambering around on rooftops and riding of elevators, I find the secret Titanite slab at the bottom of the elevator shaft, upgrade my primary candlestick to maximum level, then take on the final Lord Soul, the Twin Princes. I know I've been complaining about the low damage this entire run, but is it actually low damage? No, seriously, please let me know in the comments. I've been playing games wrong for so long that I no longer know what a normal playthrough looks like. Regardless of your answer, Lorien goes down with 0 issues, which means it's time for Phase 2, Twin Prince Boogaloo. It goes well. No biggie though. Like every boss fought with limitations, we just need to figure out the strategy. Once we've got it, a few rounds of practice should be all we need to finish the fight. The first phase is simple enough. Just stay in the fog door and blast Lorien with soul arrows while he lore crawls towards you. And once Lorien gets too close for comfort, just keep rolling to his weak side and wail on him with the candlestick whenever you have the stamina to spare. As for Phase 2, it's less about speed and more about timing. Get your hits in where you can, but more importantly, keep enough stamina and free time to dodge incoming attacks. That way, when you finally chip Lorien back down to the ground, you can give both princes something to chew on while Lorien revives. Pestilent Mist is actually extremely effective here, since the brothers are slow so long as they don't teleport, and the mist hurts both brothers simultaneously. The return on mana investment is no slouch either, doing upwards of 1200 damage if you position it right. And with enough patience and mercurial vapor, the princes go down with a few Estus left to spare, which means we are officially done collecting Lord Souls and can finish up the base game. Ah, but where's the fun in that? Why stop there when we can torment the DLC bosses with my stupid, terrible build? Oh yeah, the DLCs are dialed up to 14. When it comes to Dark Souls DLCs, they're all incredibly unique, but regardless of game, they all have 2 things in common: impossible defense increases and bloated health pools. If you don't have an optimized, fully complete build by the time you reach a Dark Souls DLC, you best turn right back around and get until you do. Unfortunately for us though, this is our fully complete build. Oh sure, we might pick up a +3 ring or 2 by the end, but I'm pretty sure we're at the end of our rope. But enough calculus. We've got 2 bosses in the Painted World DLC to beat, starting with Sister Frida and Father Ariandel. Normally, this fight is rather difficult, but for reasons I can't discuss right now, wink wink nudge nudge, I have gotten very good at the Sister Frida fight, which means an easy clear of Phase 1, an immediate ego check in Phase 2, and another agonizing hour of being repeatedly pounded into the dirt before giving up and attempting boss number 2. The champion Gravetender and his pet wolves plural. The Gravetender himself hits very hard, and tends to play offense and defense in equal measure, but a swift kick to the shield is enough to break his posture, which means that ripostes are simple enough to perform. But then the tricky part, adding Sif 3.0 into the mix. The Great Wolf can actually be fought 2 separate times outside of the arena, once in the first snowfield, and a second time on a rising hill by the sniper tower. Beat her in both encounters, and she allegedly will have less health when it comes to the boss fight itself. And to my brain's credit, this is actually true. It's just not nearly as helpful as I remember it being. But because the Gravetender is content with lore walking through Phase 2, I decided it was worth my time to focus fire on the wolf. And once she was down, all that was left was her master. He left a lot to be desired. 1 boss down, 1 to go. Oh yeah, the Valor Heart is a weapon. God, I may not enjoy the ebb and flow of this game, but it had some great weapons. So many unique fighting styles and weapon arts. Anyway, back to Pain and Suffering. Sister Frida's first phase isn't too bad. You just have to know when to hit and when to run. And Phase 2 isn't terrible either, so long as I actually pay attention to the arena around me. Father Ariandel is pretty weak to magic attacks, and managing Sister Frida by baiting her attacks isn't a problem either. So long as I make sure she doesn't heal mid-fight, we should have more than enough magic to make it to Phase 3 relatively unscathed. And there you go, Phase 2 complete, which means we have 1 more to go. And this is where I tend to fall apart. Thankfully, I know the ultra secret technique. Behold, my runaway screaming jutsu! 30% of the time, it works every time. Patent pending, batteries not included. Please keep out of reach of pets and children. But despite running low on Baja Blast and being completely dry on Sunny D, things are actually looking good. The damage is solid enough, and so long as I time my attacks so that she can't dodge them, it all comes down to greed. R1 to victory. This is the way. But with 1 DLC down, we've got 1 more to go. The Ringed City. Man, it's been a hot minute since I've actually played this one. What's it been, 2 years? It's such an atmospheric DLC. I don't know why oh right, now I remember. Between getting sucked into the ground by graboids, God herself trying to smite me from the heavens, and the poorly distinguished route you're supposed to take, this DLC was kinda annoying. I shit you not, I got lost in this tree section for half an hour. Half an hour of what is essentially the Great Hollow, but the basilisks all have sniper rifles, and if you dare hide behind cover, they break out the tear gas. Good times had by all. But after going out of my way to vindictively murder whatever the hell these things are supposed to be, I finally figured out where I was supposed to go. And I kinda wish I hadn't. the Demon in Pain and the Demon from Below. Miyazaki's middle finger to players and lorehounds alike. This boss is probably my least favorite of the series, and that's saying something. It's Ornstein and Smo all over again. Except there's no pillars to hide behind, the demons are both fast and strong, and they can poison you with a toxic breath attack. Thanks, I hate it. As I'm sure you've noticed by now, we have several problems that we have to overcome. Aside from the aforementioned difficulty that the bosses themselves bring to the table, we also have to deal with FromSoft's least attractive quality, DLC health pool bloat. There's also the fact that FromSoft loves to beef up their enemy defense values in their DLCs as well. And since my weapon is not what you'd call an optimal choice, we're essentially flailing around with a wet noodle at this point, which means our only viable option is magic. And with limited mana and ultra high defenses, there's really only one correct answer for this problem: Pestilent Mist. Sure, the bosses tend to leave the mist prematurely, but it ignores enemy defense, has a low mana cost, and can hit both enemies at the same time. That's a win-win-win in my book. And as an added bonus, when there's only one demon left, you can actually keep them more or less in the mist simply by walking in a big circle. Finally, a nice easy win. I feel like we haven't had enough of those in this run. Oh yeah, he has a second phase. Because of course he does. Well, this isn't an anime. I'm not waiting politely while you finish your transformation. Have some free mist. On the house. Now for those that don't know, this fight is exactly like Ornstein and Smo in that the second phase is different depending on which demon you killed first. There's the super crazy fireballs everywhere version, or the firing my laser version. Most of the internet seems to agree that the fireball version is the harder of the two, due to the boss using attacks that make the entire arena into a bullet hell. So naturally, that's the version I ended up with. But don't worry, we just have to kill the other demon first this go around to get the easier fight. Was this the right demon? I honestly can't remember. Ah, yep, that was the right one. Okay, now we just need to not die and we can... Well, alright, third time's the charm. No, seriously, which demon is it again? These fights take so long that I can't remember which one I killed first last time. And it's not like we have two different character models to help differentiate. One's just slightly darker red than the other. Which is super helpful and good, considering you can easily compare the two since they definitely don't lose their colors in the middle of the fight. I know I'm making a mountain out of a molehill here, and can just look up the correct health bar I'm supposed to be emptying, but this kind of bad game design just irks me. Not only is it difficult to tell which boss I'm fighting at any given moment due to the aforementioned problems, but even when I do get to phase 2, the boss is so beefed up that I usually don't last long enough to see its signature moves, so I can't even be sure I picked the right demon in phase 1. In the long run, it's not the end of the world. I guess I just expect more from Dark Souls at this point. This is the third game of the series, and they already got it right on the first attempt. How they managed to fuck it up on the third pass, I'll never know. In any case, let's come up with a way to remember which demon is the correct demon to kill last. That way we never have this problem again. How about if you kill the demon in pain, then pain is all you'll get? Sure, why not? That's the best I can come up with after 2 straight hours of attempts on this boss anyway. I'm sure the internet has a much better way of remembering the difference between the two. So if you've got some sort of mnemonic device or rhyme you like to use, please let me know, because I don't want to do this again. Anyway, after another hour of attempts, I finally realized which demon to kill in which order, and got to the second phase enough times to actually learn the boss's moveset. And with that, we can finally move on. And after a quick ride from the Cheese Demon Cartel, it's time for the final area, the Ringed City proper. This area is full of ghost archers and angry giants, but don't worry, I know just how to avoid them. And after sprinting past all kinds of bullshit that I don't even want to give the time of day, I give Medea a light misting of pestilence, followed by a quick root canal, and there you go. Giant Abyss Dragon handled with ease. But that was just me handling the Giant Abyss Dragon. I didn't say anything about finishing it off. Medea is a weird one. His hitboxes are kind of wonky when you're up close and personal, so your best bet is to hurt. Close range is your best option, because he has a hard time. So yeah. In case it wasn't obvious, there's no easy solution to this boss fight. Pestilent Mist does a better job than you'd expect, since Medea actually doesn't move all that much aside from his rush attacks, but setting it up in such a way that it's actually effective can be difficult, especially if Medea decides he doesn't want to play today. Hope you're ready for another brick wall, because apparently that's all that's left in this run. The worst part is there's nothing you can really do either. Our build is complete, and all the important stats are at their soft caps. At this point, the only path left is to get good. Medea explodes when he enters phase 2, by the way, just in case you didn't know. Weirdly, the second phase felt easier than the first, probably because he has several attacks that anchor him to one spot, making Pestilent Mist much more effective. And, after roughly an hour or so of attempts, it's over. Got good, good got. Moving right along. On to the best boss of the entire game, Half-Light, Spear of the Church. That was sarcasm, by the way. Well, his buddies aren't any real issue, all dressed up and zero poise. But Half-Light is a bit of a different story. He's not incredibly intelligent, so convincing him to stand in the mist isn't overly difficult, but he does have some long-range attacks to counter our gentle assault. Oh, and then there's this thing. Is this a moveset in Elden Ring? I feel like this is a moveset in Elden Ring. But don't worry. Turns out, Half-Light follows the glass cannon methodology just like myself, which means we just need to get a few lucky hits, and this fight is over. Is what I would say if that damn painted guardian didn't keep respawning. How many times I gotta teach you this lesson, old man? Oh good, you can heal each other. That's fun. Well, you know what they say, teamwork makes the dream work. But that's what they say. You know what I say? There's no I in team, but there's no you in team either. And if I'm not on the team and you're not on the team, no one's on the goddamn team. The team sucks. But with Half-Light's hopes of synergy dashed against the literal rocks, it's time for some accidental property damage. Hey Miyazaki, remember how the trailers for Dark Souls 3 kept saying all will be revealed? Just one question. What? And if you've got time for a follow-up question, huh? Seriously though, when those trailers came out, I was so excited. I had so many questions left over since Dark Souls 2. So when Dark Souls 3 brought more questions than answers, it was a bit of a disappointment. That was a Forgotten Pygmy, by the way, just in case you weren't confused enough already. But enough about Shattered Lord dreams and confused plotlines. It's time for the final boss of the DLC, Gale. And I know what you're thinking. This is the part where I get stuck, monologue a bit, and maybe even pull out a musical montage of deaths and near misses, right? Well, surprisingly no. Don't get me wrong, our boy Gale here lives up to his final boss namesake. What with the jumping, the growling, and the flying across the screen in ways that Midir could only dream of. And there's no denying that if you lose focus or try to get too greedy, he will absolutely take advantage of your poor judgment. But despite all of that, he just feels fair. There's room for counterattacks, he backs off occasionally to give you time to breathe and heal, and his health bar feels appropriate. So with great heavy soul arrows flying and candlesticks breaking repeatedly over his cowled head, we get Gale to phase 2. Which means we now have to contend with a more aggressive Gale and even more moves at his disposal. And after doing enough damage to knock him below half health, Gale finally drops into phase 3, where all of the dark souls inside him burst out, attacking anything within range and causing lightning strikes where they land. And yet, despite his new flourishes and elongated attack patterns, it's still somehow fair. I know we've been ragging on FromSoft a bit in this video, but if you ask me to point at the pinnacle of Dark Souls boss design, this is it. But with one final soul arrow to the face, it's time to let this boss get his well-deserved rest. The man's been searching for paint for so long that he doesn't even know what color he's looking for anymore. Relatable. Well, I guess it's time for the last boss of the— oh, bye, Fletchy, I forgot Dragonland. Kia! So, you know how this boss used to be the hardest thing in the game? Yeah, no, definitely not the case anymore. First phase dead in less than 5 casts. I have no words. But surely the Nameless King himself is still formidable, right? There's hundreds of hours of video of people just getting wrecked by him. It's not like oh wait, he's easy now. I'm not sure what happened, but somewhere along the line, this boss became one of the easiest bosses in the game. I'm not even using magic anymore. I'm just hitting him in the face repeatedly. I feel like there's a name for this. Experience? Nah, that's not catchy enough. Let's call it the FromSoft effect. As someone who's been enjoying FromSoft games for over a decade now, it always felt like FromSoft has been competing against its players. With every new entry, bosses get more movesets, more health, and more delayed attacks. In response, the player base gets good. They learn. They adapt. They overcome. And then another game comes out, and the race starts anew. The only question is, how far can we go? Unfortunately, I don't have an answer to that particular question just yet. But soon. Soon I will. But until then, we've got one last boss to go. The Soul of Cinder. Culmination of every player and every build who ever linked the fire, easily smashed against the shattered rocks around him. Not even remotely comparable to the difficulties we've faced up to this point. And even his second phase, where Gwyn, the true Lord of Cinder, makes an appearance, it's still not enough. Because while nothing but cinders may remain of the original fire, I brought a candle. And so, with the last remaining vestige of the flames dwindling, there's only one thing left to do. The first flame is small and fragile. For too long has it borne the burden of keeping this world lit. The age of the first flame is over. The age of the 2 candles has only just begun. Oh, you're still here. Well, anyway, I couldn't fit this in because it kind of disrupted the story, but for legal reasons, thank you again to Displayed for sponsoring today's video. Really appreciate it. Bye-bye now.